Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about Shakespeare and we're going to be revising context. Don't forget to like and subscribe before we get going. It's a really good idea to have all of the revision that you need in one place. We've got all sorts of things for you here on the channel. We've got guides to questions and papers. There are videos for just about everything for English literature and English language GCSE, and there are also some walking talking mocks. All you need is a piece of paper and a pen, and I'll walk you through every aspect of GCSE English literature and language. Okay, today we're thinking about context, so let's revise that for Shakespeare. Okay, so it's important to know that Shakespeare wrote during the reigns of two monarchs. So his earlier plays and his sonnets were written during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, and then his later plays were written during the reign of King James I. There he is, looking gangster in his hat. So we've got the late 1500s for Queen Elizabeth I, and we've got the early 1600s. The early 17th century for King James I. So there they are. And it's important to know that we have the Elizabethan era. So if you're writing about one of the earlier plays, the audience would be the Elizabethans. And for no reason that I know, when we talk about King James, it's the Jacobean era. If you are somebody who's studying Romeo and Juliet, Romeo and Juliet is an Elizabethan play. And if you're studying Macbeth, Macbeth is a Jacobean play. And it's important to know the difference between the two audiences when you write about context. So, thinking about Romeo and Juliet, firstly, if you're studying Romeo and Juliet and you want to think about some ways that you can explore how context may have changed the meaning for Shakespeare's audience, we've got the Elizabethans who believed in fate and destiny, that things are written in the stars, which is a theme that's explored in the prologue. Shakespeare gives his Elizabethan audience the opportunity to question this idea as Romeo and Juliet and others in the play make terrible decisions. And we're left asking, should we blame the characters or the stars and fate for the deaths of Romeo and Juliet? We've also got Elizabethan England being a patriarchal society. Fathers ruled over their families and had all of the social power. Shakespeare himself married Anne Hathaway when she became pregnant, and perhaps he was under strict instruction from his father, and that could have influenced key themes and key moments in the play. If you had a child outside of marriage, that would have shamed your family. So it's supposed or thought about that Shakespeare might have had to marry Anne Hathaway to save his family's reputation. We've also got religion that plays a part in Romeo and Juliet. Of course, you've got Friar Lawrence, who has a close relationship with Romeo. So religion was important to Elizabethans. People were expected to go to church by law, so that's the expectation for the audience at the time. And Romeo and Juliet dishonour their parents, and they worship each other. There's a lot of religious language used when they speak to each other when they first meet. Elizabethans would have expected them to honour their parents and worship God as instructed by the Ten Commandments. So they might have seen Romeo and Juliet in a different way to perhaps a modern audience. We've now got some context for Macbeth to think about. So after Queen Elizabeth passes on, we've got King James I moves to London to reign from Scotland, and he asks Shakespeare to write a play for him to be formed at Hampton Court Palace. He was very interested in witches, and he'd written a book about them, which there's an image thereof. So they feature in Macbeth to please him. We've also got Catholicism outlawed in England, and there's a plot to kill King James I, which we of course know as the Gunpowder Plot with Guy Fawkes. And Shakespeare's play, which was written shortly after, tells the audience not to commit regicide, which is a very lovely word for killing the king or queen. So Macbeth kills King Duncan in the play and everything goes wrong. Be warned, that is the message to the audience. Of course, a way of Shakespeare ingratiating himself with King James in doing so. And we've also got the idea of the great chain of being. That's the idea that the universe is ordered from God downwards. And this is something that people of the Jacobean time would have certainly believed in. And King James himself is said to have said that he sees kings as the lieutenants of God. So you've got God, and then you've got kings, and then you've got their subjects. And this order goes right down to sludge. So Macbeth disrupts this order, and this leads to chaos, which is restored at the end of the play. There's also a nod to King James I for this Jacobean audience when Macbeth visits the witches and sees a vision of a future King James I. So he had a distant relative called Banquo, and that's the character Banquo is named after that distant relative. And you've got a line of future kings that come out of the cauldron or dance, and one of them holds a cup, which is a nod to King James. So he would have seen the play and seen himself in it. So that is context, some great ideas for you to think about for Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth. Just make sure that if you're in an exam, you're not just throwing them in for no reason. You're trying to link these ideas, these contextual factors to key moments in the play and quotes themselves. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content, and feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.